So welcome everyone. So for today's video, I thought I'd give you a peek behind the curtain, so to speak, of my method for making billets for wooden hand planes. Now this isn't the only way to do it, and it certainly isn't not necessarily the best way to do it. This is just a way that I have found success, and given my tools and my skill sets and my goals. So hopefully there's something here for you. And if you have other suggestions or improvements I can make, leave those in the comments, and because I'm here to learn as well. So the first step before we even start cutting anything is to allow the lumber to acclimate to the shop's environment. And to do that, all you really need to do is just let that piece of wood sit around. Make sure that you have air kind of go around all sides of it, and that's going to allow any kind of difference in moisture, internal moisture to the wood, as well as whatever amount of moisture is in the air, to just normalize with each other. And the idea here is that this should give you a better end product because it's going to be more stable. And if there's any warping that's going to occur, it should start doing it now. And it's going to make it easier to deal with when you go to mill it up later. If you get a piece of wood and start cutting on it right away and immediately put it into your project, if it tries to then acclimate after you've already made something with it, it could warp, and that's much more difficult to deal with. So, just kind of let it sit around. How long that's going to take just kind of depends on your geographical location, as well as the starting point for however much moisture is in that wood. So I can't really say, hey, it's going to take X number of days or weeks or months to do that. The other thing is similarly, there's not necessarily a specific reading like on a moisture meter that I can point to and say, hey, get down to this. Again, that just depends on where, kind of wherever you're located at, whether the wood was kiln dried first or if it's air dried. What you can do is you can take a moisture meter, just take readings over time. And once you notice that those readings, stabilize, that's a good indication that the wood has acclimated. And then you're ready to start cutting. So the next thing to do here is plan out your cuts and know how you want to orient your billets. You can do it if you look at the end grain. So you can orient them so they're like smile up, which would make the sole of the plane the bark side of the plane. And from my understanding, that gives better wear characteristics to the sole. The trade-off there is you could see a greater amount of seasonal expansion and contraction in the width of that plane. The potential downside there is that in the drier seasons, the blade could be difficult to remove. It could even potentially break the side of the hand plane if it gets overly dry. The blade's not going to give the wood is. The other way to do it is you orient the billets so they are more rift sawn, which if you look at the end grain, those are more 45 degrees to more vertical. And with that, you're going to see a higher stability when it comes to the seasonal expansion and contraction. It's going to be much, much less. So you shouldn't necessarily run into the problem of the blade ever becoming stuck if the billet dries out. The potential downside there is that the sole could wear faster, and which might mean you have to put in a patch, or kind of on the extreme end, you have to make a new billet. So whichever version is better, it really just kind of depends on whatever your particular goals are. So it's just something to keep in mind. And then like step 3 is I'm going to take this milling in multiple stages, and just rough cutting on the bandsaw is stage 1. And so I want to leave everything oversized in length, in width, and in thickness by a pretty generous amount. I want to allow enough material for that wood to warp. I want to allow enough material if there's any cracks that develop in the end grain at the very edges of the board, for those to occur. So, and as well as when I go to mill it later, if any snipe occurs, I can cut all of that out and end up with, and make sure I have enough material once everything is all said and done. You know, and the other thing I'm doing here too is I'm keeping track of all of my offcuts, so then I can turn those into my wedges later. Okay, I'm gonna stop here. The air quality's gotten rather poor in here, and even with this on, and an overhead dust collector, and then a fan with a filter on it, I can feel it in the mask. It's in my eyes. So I'm going to take a break. I'm going to let the dust settle, and then I'm going to come back and get some of this stuff organized. So I'll bring you back in a bit. I got to let this. I got to get out of here. This is driving me crazy. Excuse my hair. It's been a day. Anyway, so all of the body blanks have been, you know, kind of rough cut on the bandsaw, and they've been sitting here in the shop for a couple of weeks, so they should be good and acclimated and kind of ready for the next phase. And that is milling everything, but milling it oversized. And then I'm going to let them reacclimate. And the idea behind that is, you know, as you are, even on killed and dried lumber, which all of this is, the inside layers of the wood can be wetter than the outside, and as you cut or do any kind of heavy milling, you're exposing the wetter core of the wood, and the wood now is going to want to shed that newly uncovered excess moisture and equalize with the environment. And when that happens, the wood can warp, and then once I get everything to final size, those bodies will be stable and I won't have to worry about it. Of course, there's still going to be the seasonal expansion contraction, and that's something that will build into the design. So knock on wood that the end result, these bodies are fairly stable. So the plan was to start at the joiner, establish my reference face, my reference edge. But I'm looking at the blades, and they look like at least one of them has a bit of a hollow in it. So I either need to get all of that sorted, and I don't feel like messing with it right now. And I think it's going to be faster for me to do some of this milling by hand than it is going to be for me to tinker with that jointer and get that going again. I've got more practice with the hand planes than I do with machine maintenance. So yeah, that's where we're going to go. And because some of this wood is prone to tear out, I'm going to start it all with a toothing blade. After the hand plane, I'm going to pop them into the thickness planer and mill everything down, get it roughly to size, oversized of course, like I had said earlier, and then let them reacclimate. And then at that point, when it comes time to build that particular hand plane, I can grab one off the shelf, and that is, you know, those body blanks are pretty much ready to go, and they just will need a little bit of tweaking at the start to get them down to their final size, and yeah, should make the actual building of the plane a lot smoother. Anyway, I've got 12-ish, 10, I don't know, it's been a few weeks. I got some body blanks to start working through, so let's get moving. So just for comparison's sake, I guess just to kind of, so this was, when I started, this block was flat, and then I cut off the whole top basically, and it's not flat anymore. It's this side and this side have both moved up, so this has got a hump in it now, and it's probably a 1/16 of an inch across 18 inches. Okay, so this is why we acclimate. But there's a big old crack. And this was not here after I was done rough cutting. So that is something that has occurred later, and I got another crack here too. So the idea here isn't to get these perfectly flat. The idea here really is just to get them flat in the aggregate, so then I can stick them through the thickness planer. I won't have to worry about it. All right, editing Eric here. I just want to clarify my statements on that. What I mean by flatten the aggregate is that I am not worried about spending my time trying to get the surface pristine. So if there's tear out, if there's some saw marks, if there's some humps, or if there's some dips, all of that can be okay. So as long as all of the high points are in the same plane, it'll be flat in the aggregate, and that is enough for the thickness planer to be able to do its job appropriately. Hopefully that makes sense. And again, this is all just oversized. I'm just more or less trying to get it so it's safe to go through a table saw. That's pretty square. Good enough. So I just want to touch back on the jointer, the power jointer. I went to look at the blades a little more closely, kind of off camera, and I think almost all of them had some hollows in them, and one of them had a pretty significant chip out of it. So those blades just aren't going to work. It was going to take a little bit to get them sharp, and I didn't have any spares. So, going to the hand plane to do all this work, it actually wasn't too bad. It didn't take too terribly long. I think about each billet, I think took maybe 5 minutes. But then again, I have some practice with the hand planes, and I wasn't, like I said, trying to make those pristine surfaces. So, it just kind of goes to show that there's always a way to get something done. That you have multiple options when it comes to woodworking. And for all of these billets, and I was using a toothing blade. Certainly, a regular hand plane blade would be fine. For these billets, I'm using exotic woods, and that's just what I have planned out. If you're working with, your traditional billet material, which would be beech or birch, or lately more hard maple, you're not going to necessarily have to worry about having a toothing blade. These exotics I have found want to tear out pretty bad with a regular hand plane blade, so that's the only reason that I went to the toothing blade. So now for the next step here is putting them all through the thickness planer. So again, I'm leaving everything oversized. I haven't taken anything off the length, and the thickness. I'm probably going to leave them about 1/8 over in both my width and in my thickness, and because I'm going to give these another chance at acclimating before I do my final dimensioning to size, which will occur later when I get ready to actually build with it. And the offcuts here, those are just getting thrown in the scrap bin. There's no reason to necessarily keep those around. I've tried to film this like 12 times now, so hopefully this is the last one. Anyway, all of the rough milling is done, and I had enough billets for 10 hand planes. I was hoping for 9. It looks like I'm gonna get 8. 2 of my billets have developed cracks, and to get past those cracks, it's not gonna leave me enough material for these to be viable for this particular design. I'm going to save them and see if I can't use them for something else. The rest of these other 8 billets look pretty good. I do need to keep my eye on this one. It's a piece of canary wood. I've got a couple cracks here in the end. One there, and there's a smaller one over here. As long as that doesn't open up another 2 inches, this one will still be okay. The rest of these look fine. So the plan is just patience. I am going to stack all of these so air can get to all sides and let them continue to acclimate in the shop. I do not think that these will require too much acclimation at this point. You know, they were sitting in the shop for a couple years before I did all the rough cutting. It's been a few weeks since all the bandsaw work. It'll be a couple more weeks before I get to actually turning these into hand planes. So I got 8. I have enough steel cut because all of these are going to have steel soles. I have enough steel cut for 9. So I'm going to see if I can't scrounge up another billet. I'm going to do that off camera. There's no reason to film that one. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to see more of my work, you can check it out on my website. I've left links in the description below. You can also look, click around. There's some other videos of stuff that I have been working on. And if you want to see it in person, I will be at Hand Tool Haven 2026. It's going to take place in May. Again, I'll leave links in the description. It'll be a tool show. It's going to be occurring in the Pittsburgh area. And I was at last year's. It was really great. This year looks like it's going to be even better. Just looking at who is going to be there. They've got a great lineup. So I will be there with hopefully a good number of hand planes and other tools. So some shameless self-promotion. If you are checking out the website, I sell on there as well as Etsy. So just anyway, forewarned. Do not feel like you need to financially support me at all. Watching these videos is more than enough, and I'm just happy I can share what I am doing, and there's an audience out there somewhere for it. And if you want to subscribe, great. If not, that's cool too. The thumbs up helps, or just click on some other video, even if it's not mine. There's a lot of cool stuff out there. So thanks for taking some time out of your day to see what I'm doing.